Welcome to the Cropland USA podcast, where we talk about all things related to the sale and marketing of cropland. I'm Bill Gaughan, your host, one of the principals of Cropland USA today. So we would invite you to enjoy this podcast, follow the entire series of podcasts that we have, and when you get a chance, visit croplandusa.com, where we'll keep you up to date with everything about marketing your cropland. Now, joining us today is Bernie Wurts from Personal Financial Advisors. Bernie, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks, Bill. Great to be here.
Now, I have known Bernie for well over 20 years. In fact, probably the best endorsement I could give to Bernie is he is my personal financial advisor. So if you're wondering if I have any confidence and trust in Bernie, I hope that would answer it for you. Uh, we have known Bernie to be a hardworking, he's dedicated, extremely honest and forthright, and he's got tons of experience. And we're going to explore a little bit. He's licensed in several facets of personal financial planning and advice, wealth management, retirement, etc. So, Bernie, let's talk a little bit about this. Uh, what made you decide to become a personal financial advisor?
Yeah, probably when I was younger, I seen, my parents struggle, and I thought, they didn't know what to do. And I grew up on a farm in rural Ohio, and just like most of my friends, they did too. And it made me wanna do something to help folks. And I really at that time didn't know what to do. And as I went through college and advanced in my careers, I took another job that wasn't in this field, changed careers about 30 years ago, and it was probably the best decision I made. I get self-fulfillment in helping people. It just is satisfying to me.
Well, excellent. And so you've been a PFA for about 30 years, is that right?
I've been a financial advisor for 30 years. I'm actually a CFP, which is kind of a master's degree, a certified
Okay.
financial planner. Been going on this for 3 decades now. So
Now, as I understand it, you work for a company called Professional Financial Advisors. Is that right? Can you tell us a little bit about that company?
yeah, we're an independent financial planning group, and it's called a registered investment advisor, which means we have a fiduciary responsibility to our clients, which means all of our clients, every time we work with a client, their best interest always have to be ahead of ours. And I think sometimes the public perception is the word financial advisor is a very broad name, and I think the public doesn't understand that anyone can be essentially a financial advisor. They take one test and they can or take one test and they can hang a shingle outside their door. But I think you really have to do the research and dive deep into what exactly are their credentials and what their experience is. And I think at our firm we've got a lot of experience that sets us apart from most firms.
And most of the people that work for your firm, they're located in the farm states, are they not?
They are. We've got our home office is actually in North Platte, Nebraska, which is western Nebraska. And I'm down here in Overland Park, Kansas, but we work throughout the central Midwest, Kansas, Missouri, Nebraska, Iowa, and South Dakota.
Excellent. Now, so I would imagine, given the geography and everything, you probably work with a lot of people who are thinking about selling their farm and managing those assets, do you not?
We do. It's happened more over the years. We're seeing a bigger influx as there's less families, less of the kids coming back to the farm and
Yeah.
working on the farm. So we see a lot of dads that are relinquishing those farms, and they either want to sell them outright or sell them for other real estate. So we're seeing a lot of that.
So, are there any major differences between when you sell a farm and you're going to have obviously an influx of cash? Is that different than some other, I guess, what do you call it, liquidity events that people face that they need to talk with you about first?
It can be, and this is one of the things we find. Usually, when a farmer sells his farm, it's the first time he's done it,
That's right.
right?
Yeah.
So, and I think the biggest mistakes that are done, they either talk to their buddies that are drinking coffee down every Saturday morning and they hear what other people have done. Well, what might be right for other people might not be right for them. So, I guess one of the questions I would ask is when's the last time you did something very important for the first time and did it 100% right? And
That's a good
I'm
super.
personally myself have never done that. I always ask advice from someone. So I think the big difference is plan ahead and know what you're doing ahead of time. Look at all angles and all options, and don't make emotional decisions. Make good financial decisions.
Well, it sounds like you think this through for people. Is there a standard process you use to help people who are considering selling their farm?
Yeah, I think what we do is we need to sit down with them because I think a lot of folks, when they go to sell their farm, they only look a mile down the road and they think, okay, I'm going to sell my farm. How am I going to sell it? Am I going to do a 1031 exchange, which means we can exchange it for other property, not pay any capital gains taxes on it, but still it's not liquid. And then when they're farming, they're getting income off their farm. What kind of income are we going to have in the new property? Or is that the right thing to do? Or do we want to do a partial 1031 exchange? But what you have to do is if we outright sell it, how is that going to affect our taxes? And they might work with a CPA or their accountant and think, well, we're going to have some capital gains tax. And if we sell some buildings, there might be some recapture from some depreciated assets. But then a big surprise that comes up is, hey, our Medicare, if they're age 65, their Medicare Part B might go from $165 to $560 for a year. And that's a big surprise. So what we like to do is take all those surprises out of the equation, plan ahead, not only plan for that 1 year, plan, you know, 5, 10, 15 years down the road so we know where that income is coming from. It just gives them peace of mind.
Wow, I that's a little frightening to the to the person who doesn't deal with these things all the times because you're right. Surprises can be ugly surprises, can't they?
Yeah, we want all the surprises to be good ones or known ones at least.
Exactly. So if somebody is interested, and now hopefully, I hope our listeners and viewers have realized there's a lot to this and there's some risk involved. They should probably chat with you early in the process. Is there a do you charge them a fee for an initial consultation or
No, 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 no. We believe in this. If you have an inkling or something that you might want to explore, either selling your farm, I mean, I suggest you just sit down with us. It doesn't cost you a dime. And we're a big believers in dipping your toe in the shallow end just to see if you're comfortable with the water. And sometimes we can't help you and we'll tell you, look, there's nothing we can do for you. You got everything under control. But many times there's little things that we'll bring up. We'll ask certain questions and you'll answer them, which causes us to ask another question, which, oh, I haven't thought of that. So it just keeps going and going and going. And at the end of that meeting, we'll have a good idea of whether we can help you or not. It doesn't cost you anything. And if we think we can, we'll just go from there.
that makes sense? So if they're interested in chatting with you, what's the best way to get in contact with you, Bernie?
The best way to get in contact with me is a phone number. And that phone number is 913-322-3845.
Okay, very good. So you've probably talked with people who haven't done this, who did sell the farm, and then some of these issues. What are some of the common things that people say they wish they had known before they sold their farm?
Yeah, that's a good question, Bill. It's almost like buying flood insurance after it rains. So in those particular instances, they've never really looked at what the tax implications were, not only from the big picture, but also from the Medicare tax. And then another issue they have is, okay, where are we going to get our income from? How are we going to reposition these assets to bring income in? And a lot of times they'll think, well, I'll just put it in the bank and make interest off my CDs. But the problem is CDs aren't really paying that good or haven't in the past. And matter of fact, as of this taping, the Federal Reserve just lowered the interest rates. And we see that happening in the future too. So CD rates are going to continuously go down. And I find farmers to be very, when I say risk aggressive people, because if you stop and think about a farmer each year, they depend on the weather each year. They don't have to depend on the Federal Reserve or what's going on in the economy per se to have their crops grow. They need to depend on the economy for what price they're getting. But they have to depend on the weather. So they're used to the ups and downs. But I think the most important part is just to put a plan in place. And those people that have a plan in place have such a higher degree, excuse me, of success rather than, and they know what's coming down the road as opposed to those folks that have nothing in place. And we have surprises that come up, and 99 times out of 100, they're not good surprises.
Yeah. Now, you're located here in the Metro Kansas City area. Can you help people in the states we've talked about, South Dakota, Iowa, Nebraska,
We do all
Kansas?
the time. As a matter of fact, what we like to do is we like to travel to those states. We like to get in front of them.
Oh,
Usually there's an initial phone call, just to go over some preliminary stuff, and then after that, we'll travel up to see them. We wanna look them in the eyeballs, get to know them, and we want them to know us, and, just to see if we can help them. So I think it's always good. We don't do a lot of remote stuff. It's always face to face.
that's so refreshing. I get tired of Zoom meetings, and I like to talk to people rather than text and that sort of thing. So you're willing to get in the car and go visit folks. That's great. Now, if someone is going to have a consultation with you or meet with you, are there some steps they should take or a little bit of prep? What are some of the common things they should be ready to talk about?
Yeah, usually before we meet with them, we'll have that initial phone call, and before we go visit them, we'll give them a list of items that we want. A lot of times, we'll want to, tax return. We'll want a list of some of the things that, do they have an estate plan in place? And then where's their income coming from now? What type of income do they want in the future? And a lot of times they don't know the answer to those questions or haven't taken the time to think about those questions. And there's where I mean, where people think only a mile down the road as opposed to 5, 10, or 20 miles down the road. Or I talked about estate plan. When's the last time they had their estate plan updated? So we look at all those facets and we'll want to go over those things in that initial meeting. And usually after that initial meeting, we can get a good idea where their strengths are and then where there's areas of improvement or where we can help them. And then we'll just take it from there.
Well, I can promise our viewers and listeners that that is exactly what Bernie does, because I know it was 20 plus years ago when my wife and I sat down with Bernie. He almost wouldn't talk to us unless we were ready to put together an estate plan, which of course we didn't have. We had no idea what we're going to do about tax planning and that sort of thing, and we could tell how thorough Bernie was, and that we were going to have to take some positive steps forward. And it's worked out great for us in the 20 plus years that we've been affiliated with Bernie. So um, I don't know if in the middle of a podcast I should do this, but that's kind of a personal testimonial.
Well, thank you, Bill.
Uh, Now, the Cropland USA model is to have a series of professionals, all of which can be of help to somebody selling a farm. Do you feel that's advantageous, this model, to the work you do?
I do, Bill, and I'll tell you why I do. Many times in the past, dealing with someone that has sold farmland, they might have three or more people advising them, and me being one. And then what happens is you have the client that's at the center, then you have all three, four, or five different strings pulling in different directions. And you've got five different opinions pulling the client, and they never make any progress. With Cropland USA's model, you have all these professionals that are very competent and have a lot of experience, and they're all pulling the client in the same direction. The communications there, everyone's on the same page. We're all going in one direction. Where in the other model, or the experience that I've had before, everyone has their own opinion. Where in Cropland USA's model, it's always client focused.
Uh,
And to me, it's head and shoulders above everything else.
well, that's the whole point of why we put it together. And I should let our viewers know too that the folks that you see involved in Cropland USA, attorneys, brokers, real estate agents, financial planners, 1031 intermediaries, it was a requirement to become part of our organization, become affiliated with one another. One, that they had lots of experience, and frankly, that we knew. Nobody that we dealt with. One of the reasons we chose Bernie, I've dealt with Bernie for 20 years personally. I don't have any lack of confidence at all that Bernie's going to do a great job for our clients. And the same is true for all of the other principals. Highly experienced people that we have known and worked with for years and years and years. And finally, we decided to bring them together in Cropland USA and capitalize on not only the strength and experience, but frankly, the personal integrity that we knew all of these people had. And Bernie, we're glad that tickled to death you're part of Cropland USA.
Me too. But I'm going to tell you, all the people affiliated are not only, I want to say, experts in their field and very experienced, but they're good human beings. I mean, they really are. They're just good people.
Well, I feel that same way. As I got older in life, I realized I don't want to deal with anybody that I don't like and
Right,
enjoy
right.
dealing
And we
with.
don't have to, right?
Exactly right. Well, we've covered a lot of topics. Is there anything else that we should have talked about today that we didn't, Bernie?
I think the big thing is that you can never plan too much or ask too much or get too much advice, so to speak. There's no downside in testing the waters, just to see if we're a fit for you. I think there's no downside in contacting us just to see if you don't think you don't think we are, then we're not. But what's the downside in doing it? There's only upside.
I think that makes perfect sense. Well, thanks, Bernie. I loved having you here today, and we appreciate your time and experience and expertise and everything you've done for, well, me personally. So
Well,
thank
thanks,
you.
Bill. Appreciate it. Great being here.
So that's our podcast for today, folks. To keep up with us, please keep tuning into these podcasts and regularly check croplandusa.com for the latest information on marketing cropland. Now, we'd love to hear from you. So please get in touch with us. Give me a call if you've got any questions or if you've got a podcast topic you'd like us to cover. You can call me at 913-837-0760. And yes, I like to talk to you. Now, if you're one of those people who wants to text, we're glad to text as well. So feel free to touch base with any of us. Touch base with Bernie. Bernie, why don't you give him your phone number one more time?
Yeah, my phone number is 913-322-3845.
Thanks, Bernie. And thanks for everybody for tuning into this podcast. And we look forward to seeing you next time.